another man's bed. And I don't even know if she's serious. Oh, you don't even know if she's serious. Oh, do you feel better now? Do you feel better now? Do you feel better now? Let me hear you sing. Oh, do you feel better now? Do you feel better now? Do you feel better now? Let me hear you sing. Let me hear you sing. Oh, do you feel better now? Do you feel better now? Do you feel better now? Let me hear you sing. Oh, do you feel better now? Do you feel better now? Do you feel better now? And I don't even know if she's serious. Oh, and you don't even know if she's serious. And I don't even know if she's serious. Oh, and you don't even know if she's serious. Let me hear you sing. Oh, do you feel better now? Do you feel better now? Do you feel better now? Let me hear you sing. Oh, do you feel better now? Do you feel better now? Do you feel better now? Let me hear you sing.
I was out last night to forget about you. I was out last night, but I started to miss you. I've been feeling like a fool, and I started to miss you. What am I supposed to do to get back with you? Oh, I've been feeling like a fool, and I started to miss you. What am I supposed to do to get back with you? I miss you. I miss you. I've been feeling like a fool, and I started to miss you. What am I supposed to do to get back with you? Oh, I've been feeling like a fool, and I started to miss you. What am I supposed to do to get back with you? I miss you. I miss you. I was out last night to forget about you. I was out last night, but I started to miss you. I've been feeling like a fool, and I started to miss you. What am I supposed to do to get back with you? Oh, I've been feeling like a fool, and I started
I just can't let you go. Lord knows that I've tried to. You said I was the only one. No one likes being lied to. You made this mess and left me with the pieces. Now I wanna burn all the bridges between us. I can't focus, I can't forget. I've been thinking too much lately. I just need to clear my head. I just need to clear my head. I've been stuck on your memory, but it's not like I need it. And we may have some history, but we don't have to repeat it. You made this mess and left me with the pieces.
Si. Ça fonctionne? Ouais. Magnifique. On attend encore une petite minute quand les retardataires arrivent. Okay, I think we're going to start. Welcome everyone to the Web Mardi. I'm Geoffroy. I'm taking care of the Web Mardi along with Camille, Alison, and Kevin. Who's new to the Web Mardi? Okay, I'll explain a bit the concept. So the Web Mardi is a meetup that is held every first Tuesday of each month. And we explore different topics around the web. It can be the new framework that you discovered or a tool that helps you in your everyday work. Or you can also share an experience that you faced, a challenge that you faced during your work or your studies or anything you're doing, basically. You can find us on different social medias. So meetups for the subscription, Twitter, Mastodon, YouTube, and Facebook. We also live stream the event using the camera here, and you will be able to see the talk after a few days or weeks. It always depends. It takes a bit of time to mount to do all the work after the talk. Tonight we are welcome to the Liip office here. For the convenience, here has the restroom on your left. You can find the password for the Wi-Fi You will need it if you don't have internet access on your mobile, because you're going to be able to win something tonight. So, for the schedule, we're going to start with the talk. Then we will announce the next, we will have the quiz where you will be able to win the prize. So be careful, listen to what Paul is saying. And then we're going to present the next WebMRD and have an open mic session. Basically, during the open mic session, you can come on stage and just share about anything you want. If you're looking to hire people, you're looking for a job, or you want to promote something, that's the place to be. And in the end, we're going to have the traditional apéro on the terrace, because it's a really nice view, and we are lucky with the weather today. So I won't talk too much. Camille will take picture tonight. If you don't want to be photographed, just raise your hand and I will give you a lanyard. So we will blur you on the pictures. Great. So,
thank you.
Go, Paul. C'est bon, j'ai enlevé.
Je suis technicien en fait ici. Ensuite.
We just need some extra time to set up all the thing.
Merci. All right, I'm just going to take a short extra minute to check that we still have something in the field of view, because this is a microscope, things move a little bit. And okay, it's almost good. All right, that'll do. So let me close this. All right, let's get started. So, can everyone hear me properly? So, I'm going to be talking about our experience in getting free technologies to work together, namely C++, Python, and JavaScript. Well, JavaScript and Python have historically been integrated using REST APIs and things like that over the web. We've done things a little bit differently for good reason, and I'll tell you a little bit about what worked and what didn't for us. So just a tiny bit of context. So my name is Paul Habfast. I'm the head of cloud services and lead engineer at NanoLive. NanoLive is this microscopy company. So we built this microscope here, which is a holotomographic microscope. I'm not going to get into too many details. Just think it's sort of like an MRI machine for cells. So typically we get images, we do a lot of processing, much the same way that MRI need a lot of processing. And then what we get are 3D images as output. This is very practical for a biologist, because as you've seen the images, you don't see very much. Usually cells are mostly transparent, and so because we don't measure the same way as traditional microscopy does, what we measure is the speed of light, we can see a lot more details. So basically, I'm going to dive a bit more into what was going on at the company, what led us to these developments. And then I'm going to talk to you a bit about how we integrated in turn Python, C++, followed by JavaScript and C++, and then finally Python and JavaScript. It didn't all happen in one day, obviously. And then they'll allow me to dive into what worked and what causes trouble. A bit about what's coming next, and then I'll take a question. If you have any question during the talk, don't hesitate. So about where we stood a little bit over a year ago, our technology stack was mainly C++. I mean, like only C++, to be honest, with various libraries around them. The reason is that we really need high-performance computing. We've got a microscope that needs to handle 50 megabytes per second of data, if not more. And then these need to be computed. We've got a lot of advanced processing going on, Fourier transforms and so on. So CUDA. And then for the user interface and for a few other things such as threading and we used Qt. Qt, does anyone know about it? Anyone doesn't know about it? So it's this C++ framework, and one really interesting thing about it is that it's event-driven. So it has this sort of extra syntax that is not standard C++, that parses your classes and extracts some metadata, and it knows about the functions by name and which parameters going and so on. And you can do things a bit like sort of a limited reflection on that. So what was really going on is that we had this software, and we had me trying to work on that. And then we had this guy show up. And he was the physicist working on all the theory. And he was like, I want to work on the raw data within the program. So we needed to give him a way to really work on that raw data. And then we got this guy coming in, our biologist. And he was like, oh, I want to have the microscope using scripts all remotely. So we need also to please this guy. We had this guy, our designer. He was like, I want to work on nice designs, and all your C++ stuff is really crappy. And finally, we had this guy, and he was like, you need to ship something. So that was a bit interesting. That's where we stood. So where we really started was with the Python C++ to please the two guys at the top. And so what we did is we used a library called pybind11 to expose our APIs to Python. Pybind11 is this really, I mean, if any one of you think he knows C++, go check out pybind11's code. It's like completely next level. I've never worked with a library whose code was so good. I don't think I'm the worst programmer ever, but this is beyond me. And so what you can do is you basically have this function, and then you can expose it to Python, and Python will directly call that. And so if I actually give a little demo of what this gives, so typically if I open a PowerShell and then I start some Python, the sort of thing that I can do is typically I can, let's say, so here what I'm doing is I'm initializing a system that connects to the microscope. And I need to initialize it so that it starts all the threading and stuff, because you need a separate thread to talk to this. And that's where typically Python has a little bit of issues. We start needing many threads to do all the rendering, all the storage. We've got files that are upwards of 1 terabyte. The microscope needs its own thread to be responsive, and so on. So this will live in its own thread. So typically does its own initialization, does a few things. Right, it moved, it's alive. And now typically I can do, so it's not going to be super visible, I'm sorry about this, but typically I can do things like just turn on. You can see the light turn on, similarly turn off. And it's a really neat library because the sort of stuff I can do is if I import the library that's to do the storage. So here, import PyStorage. Oh, you probably cannot see very much on the screen. That's really far. Let me lower the resolution a tiny bit. It's already lowered. Okay, never mind. So we'll do with that. So. No, that's not it. All right. And I load a file that I prepared beforehand. I think it's that. So I can actually load the file. And if this is our exposes our APIs, but storage dot and now what I have, so when I called this, it actually loaded the data that was inside my file, and this is just a file that's like a few hundred megabytes. So the things can get a little bit quicker thanks to this, and oops, here. So Arval is really the volume of data, three-dimensional volume of data that is stored inside the file. So now I can really start handling this data. But this doesn't mean much to anyone, especially not the physicist. What they want is to work with NumPy. So what I do is I create a NumPy array with this. And voila, I get an actual NumPy array. And the really neat thing is that it doesn't use any extra data. It sort of wraps my binary data. And if you look, all the numbers, they're all floating point numbers with numbers around 1.33. That's because it's actually water that's inside the volume. So here, now I can actually start dealing with the data using NumPy, which is what the physicists typically want to do. So, and now the other way around. So now we can call our C++ from Python. Now we want to call Python from C++ so that we have two-way communication. Now, little question. How would you guys do that? What's the silliest thing that you can think of? Yes?
Call the system executable directly from C++?
Almost. So yeah, what you do is you actually integrate the Python DLL file, and you directly embed the interpreter, and you call the interpreter, and you send it strings, and that works. So I'm going to close my PowerShell, and I'm going to go back here. Instead of calling the PowerShell, I'm going to launch my program, which is the one you saw a minute ago. And I'm going to open the debugging console. So I don't need to reinitialize our system, but now, because it's been already initialized by the program itself, but now I can do 1 + 1, 2, Python. So I just send the string, and it works. So now I could do all this stuff with the storage, or I can so if I do import by system, you'll recognize a few of the commands. It's all the same stuff. Okay, so now I don't need to initialize the system. The software took care of it for me. But now if I turn on the white light, and it's on. So now I actually, from the Python, send a command to the microscope to turn on the microscope, and the images are coming back up, and the user interface answered to that. And now I can actually control things. Similarly, if I turn off the white light, I can do system.storage.load. So storage is the same storage that I had before, and I do the same file. I think. And voila, the data is here. So I was actually able to control my C++ application from the Python console, from the C++, right? Because this thing here is C++, the console. So I send a string, several strings to the Python, which interpreted them and forwarded to the DLLs. And so I actually was able to inject in the Python the global variables of my software. Right. So, where was I? All right. So now we've got two-way communication between the Python and C++. What's coming next? So what we want next is to be able to call JavaScript from C++. And that's where the Qt framework really helped us a lot. Because there in the Qt framework, you have a sub-DLL that integrates a Chromium browser. So actually, we were able to just integrate a Chromium browser and communicate with that Chromium browser. And we have both high and low level access. So the sort of code that we're talking about is I create a WebSocket server, and I say, oh, I want to listen to to some port. Does anyone know what the 0 port is? It says, system, just give me some port that's available. So like that, I don't need to know that the port 1234 is available or not. I know that it'll always work unless all 60,000 ports are taken. So listen to that port, and then I can inject some code. Typically, here I can inject the URL of the server that I just created, because I didn't inject the port. And then I insert my script, and I launch my page. And so I've injected into my page the URL of the WebSocket server that I've just created. Typically, if I go back to the console that I had before, so yeah, obviously I can call, I've exposed my DLLs to Python. So now, instead of doing it from the C++, it'll be just a little bit easier to script it directly and do it from, start up this from the Python. So typically, let's create something. PyWebUI.create a new view. And let's say I want the white light. But the white light needs access to the acquisition to be able to retrieve the data. So, did I do anything wrong? All right. So, it's not showing up. That's because I need to actually ask it to show. There we go. It's black. OK, so it's black. It's because the white light is off. But what's really cool is that this is really Chromium. So I can debug it the same way I could using any Chrome. Think of it really as a little bit like an Electron app, except the backend is not a Node.js application, it's a C++. But so now what I can do is I can open a browser, and I can open this. And the URL is really weird for the reason that actually it's the page is packaged inside the C++ application. But nothing prevents me from actually loading any page on the internet. I could load google.ch. I could do anything. It would all just work. And now I have a proper debugging console. And I have access to everything just the same way I would want. So if I do inspect element, it's all there. I can see and I can inspect. I can do performance monitoring, things like that. Typically, here I can see that this image should be 1024 by 1024. So typically, let's just resize. That'll be next, actually. Let's go back to the presentation. So what's coming next is to be able to invoke the C++ from the JavaScript. And again, Qt helps us because of this sort of metadata that it generates. Because that means that it knows which functions are available, which events can be sent, and so on. And then it wraps this in the shape of in the WebSockets. And so now what I do is I establish a WebSocket connection between the front end and the back end, and they can communicate, and I can expose any API I want through that. So typically, if I go back to this view, I've exposed things that allow me, for example, to resize this. So now I have control. There, resize. So a bit the same way I could do this using Electron. I have control over my page. And then I just needed to expose also the acquisition that starts the white light. And the white light is here. So now I was able to actually start them. This is a live image coming from the microscope. And because I started the white light from there, there we go. It actually shows on both windows. And I was able to do this from, you see here the URL is updating. And I will also just stop it. And they will both stop. Here we go. So yeah, now I'm able to actually start and stop things on the C++ from the JavaScript. This was really mostly sort of luck that we had the right framework that allowed us to do this. But if you need one day to do something where you need a little bit more performance on the back end than an Electron app would allow you, this is probably a great solution, although it will require some more work than Electron, which is all pre-packaged, even though you'll get some help from the framework. And so now, what if you want to call the JavaScript, have the JavaScript and the Python interact? Well, use a C++ as the middleman. So if I close this window, and instead, just to give you an idea, so views. So here. So similarly, this is just a joystick, right? Nothing special about it. It's completely generic, so I could integrate this pretty much into any project. This is just a library that I reused. And now what I can do is view.connect new position, I think. So what I'm doing, for those that don't see, I mean, it's a bit far, is I created this joystick that I showed, and then I connect to some events called new position that, based on a XY position, when I move the joystick, I will print the X and the Y. So I print this string. This is actually pure Python code. So it's really a Python lambda, and I print the format. It's all pure Python. So, and must have done a typo. I think, yeah, I forgot to close a parenthesis. Right. And so now, if I go back to here, yeah. Oops. There we go, L4. And I forgot again to close the parenthesis. We'll get there. So unfortunately, now I have the connection twice, so actually it'll print twice, but you'll get the idea. So now, every time I move, I get the updates, which means that now I have a JavaScript view that's connected to WebSockets that is connected in C++ to some Python event handler, and whenever I move this, it gets in there, and I can actually respond to that using Python if I want to. I mean, I give a lambda, but it could be anything. Yeah. So this is roughly a high-level overview of what happened during the project development. Now, what really went well? The DevTools. So you've seen me open up the DevTools just a minute ago. It's not just the Chrome DevTools. Imagine you pretty much all know the Chrome DevTools, the Safari DevTools. I mean, we're WebMordy. I imagine, so the framework that we used to do the UI was React in combination with Redux. And they come with their own DevTools, which are actually extension to the Chrome web browser. And actually, they hook up also to your application. So I'm actually able, so I actually can't show you this because this is a demo laptop from my company. Didn't have the time to install React and Redux DevTools. But I can basically hook Redux to my application and monitor the state changes. Redux, so who knows here, who doesn't know React? Okay, who doesn't know Redux? Okay, so React is this framework to render a user interface, and Redux is this library to do state management. And so with that, I can easily check what's going on with my rendering and with my state, and then I can do everything else with the Chrome DevTools. And so all the debugging was made really easy thanks to that. Also, something that's just on the side, we target only one specific version of one Chromium. So we don't have to make sure it works in Firefox and Internet Explorer 8 and so on. That simplified also all the development. The NumPy integration for Python, so that I showed you already. So this was really useful for the data analysis. You saw it. I can just open NumPy. Who here doesn't know NumPy? Right. Oh, a few people. So just in a few words, NumPy is this absolute reference library for doing any sort of mathematical processing in Python. If you want to do data science, if you want to do basically anything, it's must know. Something else that worked really well is Redux Saga. So I'm going to dive a tiny bit into more details about this, but Redux Saga is this library that hooks into Redux, and the goal is to do side effect management. So typically you have side effects that you want to do when you call backend APIs, usually through REST APIs. And you want to handle user inputs and state changes and so on, and it's really made for that. So to give you a little example of what this could look like, imagine you have a backend API where you have items. The example I'm going to show you is very slight modification of a real procedure that we have in our backend, just to show you the incredible simplicity. So I want to list my registered items and then put them in my store so that it updates the store and then updates the user interface. And all I have to do is this first call. This will return a promise, a JavaScript promise. And usually what you would do is you would promise.then, .catch, and so on. Here I can just do this yield, and the Redux through the generator will do the behind-the-scenes work. And in the registered items here, I will get actually the result of the promise. And then I can directly put it in my store. And so this allows me to have sort of linear synchronous style code when actually everything that's going on here is completely asynchronous. And similarly, I can have add item when I call some backend APIs. Similarly, whether it was a success or not goes into the result of the promise of the backend call goes into this variable, and then I can handle whatever is going on there, and so on. So I can same thing for deleting the item, and then something to put this all together, where this initialize channel is where I initialize the connection with the backend. For any of you who have to do any sort of side effect management, typically call a backend for a login, anything, try this library if you have Redux around. It's a game changer. All right. Now for the things that worked a little bit less well, image stream performance. So we've got images coming from the camera, and they go into the backend, the C++ backend, which has high performance, and then you need to stream them 50 megabytes per second or more, 100 megabytes per second to your front end. And the problem is the JavaScript needs to be able to absorb this much data, but this takes time. And time you don't have much in the front end. So it's actually a very efficient way of killing your front end just by overloading it with data. Your WebSockets can't keep up and so on. So you sort of have to do compromises, and you start compromising one thing after the next. So first you start new threads on the back end to do image compression, and you reduce the resolution, and you reduce the frame rate, and so on. And in the end, you've got acceptable performance. And then you notice you want to debug the actual performance, and you notice that your data goes through Redux, and you completely crash the dev tools, and you crash even the Chrome dev tools. You crash everything because it's so much data that they're not meant. They're meant to handle just a few bytes at a time, and all of a sudden you're throwing megabytes all at once. So we had to sort of hack everything to just get the data and put it directly in the image once it's been PNG compressed and so on. We had to do PNG compression because we needed really real-time feedback. Whenever you do MPEG-4 and so on, you always get a few seconds of lag, and that was not really acceptable. Something else that's really hurt us is the Qt update cycle. So, as I mentioned, Qt comes with an embedded Chromium, but the Chromium is bound to the version of Qt. So if I want a different version of Chromium, I'm stuck. And so what happens is, oh, I found a visual bug related to some CSS property that's not propagating properly, and it's clearly a Chromium bug due to the fact that it's using the old version. So we upgrade Chromium. But if we want to upgrade Chromium, we need to upgrade Qt. And it so happens to be that the new version of Qt, if we want Chromium, we need to use Visual Studio 2017. We're using Visual Studio 2015. And all our other dependencies are compiled using Visual Studio 2017. So, and on Linux, they are generally binary compatible. On Windows, they're not. So basically, we're stuck, and it's like, deal with it. It's yeah, good for you. So basically, we hacked our CSS differently so that it would work, and we're stuck. And maybe in the future, we'll take the time to upgrade all our dependencies at once. And yeah. So what also was sort of ugly is Python and C++. So if I take a typical Python project, you've got your sources, and you start your Python executable and directly in your project, and you have everything there in your sources directly. If I take a typical C++ project, it's the exact opposite. I've got the sources, and in a different folder, I've got my binaries. And now we need to get these two models to work together. So typically, I want to keep my C++ and Python sources together, but if I have my Python sources there, I cannot work with Python there. So I need to transfer them as I work with them to my C++ build directory. And I need to do that on a, like systematic basis. So we had to do, again, some sort of hack using Python wheels and things like that. We ended up with some sort of monstrosity that's sort of like, with, especially with, the Python tests. So we had unit tests in Python to test our bindings. And the problem is, the Python unit tests were in the source directory, but we had to transfer them before each test to the build directory so that they would actually test the binding which are in the build directory. So that was also a little bit of a complication, but we've got something that works. Something else that didn't work so well, so the main thread. This is a non-issue for 99.9% of the people, but it also came to bite us. So if you think of the sort of hello world program, you've got your main file in which you've got main, and when you start a process, it starts a thread, and which runs in this main, and this is what's called the main thread. And in Windows application, well, any application that has like GUI, it's the same on macOS and on Linux. All user interface events are sent to that main thread, to no other thread. So you can do networking on a side thread, you can do work with the USB on a side thread, that all works fine. But the user interface needs to be on the main thread. There's no going around it. And the problem is typically when you've got the Python command line, the Python actually takes ownership of the main thread. So you can send any user interface event, it will just be frozen. The user interface will not update, nothing will happen. So that means this is actually why I've not shown you any user interface while running the Python executable. It's because it doesn't work. Now, there would be possibly a way out thanks to the way we do things, because since we're working with a Chromium browser, we could just start an actual Chrome instance, which would work with WebSockets to our backend on a separate thread. Too much work. We haven't done that. Similarly, if I'm talking about a web server, typically Django or Flask or anything like that, typically these also take ownership of the main thread. So I cannot start a Django web server from my GUI. So this is also sort of a limitation. It's either you do it headless without any user interface, or you do user interface and then you don't have any Django last but not least, a little bit about the software architecture. You've seen it goes in every direction. So we've been pretty careful that this doesn't happen, but it's actually really easy. When you've got JavaScript, which calls C++, which calls Python, which sends back events to JavaScript, and it goes in every direction, it can easily get very messy. All right, we've done it. So what's coming next for us? Well, we've been working at it for over a year, and we still haven't shipped the next generation product that we've been working on, which is not this, but we would like to finally ship it. It's been, Scrum promotes sprints of 2 weeks and so on. It's been sprint after sprint after sprint after sprint for over 6 months now of we need to deliver quick. The whole team exhausted. Next month is the actual launch, and we're really looking forward to after the launch. We would like to try a few different things around machine learning, integrate machine learning frameworks, because of this NumPy integration, we can probably also do things with TensorFlow and PyTorch where they could use directly our data without any copying. we can probably write a C++ WSGI gateway. It gets quite technical with Python. So, but basically, we would like to try to get this sort of Django or Flask integration working while still having a user interface that could allow a few things, such as we could remotely connect to actually an instance of the application running and see what's going on through a handful of REST APIs. I haven't gone into too many details about the logging console that's here, but it's really awful, the one that's here. Typically, if you don't see, I'm clicking on the up arrow. I'm not seeing all the last commands. It's the worst command line that you've ever seen. We want to drop this and get something better. We'll probably do it in JavaScript. So once we get that done in JavaScript, that means that we actually write Python commands in the JavaScript, which then gets sent to the C++, which gets sent to the Python, which we'll get there. Yeah. And that's it. Hope I wasn't too fast, I hope. Any question? Any question? Yes?
Yeah, maybe I missed one point. Sorry about this. But do you have any example of what interface you build with JavaScript?
I could try to show you. Is that going to work? It's not going to be super interesting because I don't have any, nor the new microscope, nor the data to be able to show. So probably is that going to work? Yeah, no, it's and I don't have the right resolution. But basically, then we can do the sort of user interface things that are trivial to do when you have a JavaScript interface. But that's incredibly difficult to do in C++.
This is JavaScript interface.
This is all JavaScript. That's what you're seeing here. One thing that is cool that we can do thanks to this, but that you couldn't do in that plain, flat JavaScript environment and browse environment, is this sort of thing. So here, browse. When I click here, I can actually get access to the file system. And if I go, for example, on desktop and do a new file, I actually get access to everything that's on the system, including paths and so on. So I can expose these sort of APIs thanks to the fact that I have a C++ backend that is fully powerful. You could do this obviously as well using Electron. Again, there are fairly strong similarities to Electron. Yes?
Is it a good solution for you? Did you are your goal reached?
Yes. So the question was, did we reach our goals? Is it working for us? It's working really well for us. It's really helpful. Typically, the product hasn't been shipped. This user interface is not finished. We've been working with the microscope with the new technologies for 6 months. And the Python interface allowed really to do this when we didn't have a user interface. I wouldn't say it's for everyone, but for our problem, it really did what we wanted to do. The overkill of JavaScript, Python, everything all together, that we don't really do that much. It's either we do a lot of C++ JavaScript or a lot of Python C++, and we haven't gone really too much into details about looping the loop because it also ends up being so easily so much spaghetti. Yes?
But how do you maintain that it won't be a spaghetti? Like usually we try to keep, I don't know, at least on website we try to, there's an idea to keep everything the same language, but you're in a different way. So how
Code reviews. So the question was, how do we make sure that's not doesn't become spaghetti code?
These are unknown areas, so I think there are many ways to do these things and how to
Yeah.
manage.
So typically, what we do is actually there's extremely little Python code in our code base. This is sort of it's not strictly forbidden. We did it from time to time, but basically we don't have production Python code. The Python code that we really have, the most of it is unit tests to test that everything works, and the functionality that we're shipping, they work. But it's more of a prototyping, so we write scripts that we keep outside the code base, and that pilot this, and then so it's more, think of the Python more like a user interface, not a graphical one, but a user interface to our backend code. That's the way we do things mostly, and this way it's mostly one way, and it works. It's the same with any technology. It's not because you can do it that you should. Yeah, code reviews allows us to be a bit careful about what's going on, and it's worked so far.
Okay, thanks.
Yes.
What could have been the other solution and what have you chosen?
The question is, what could have been the other solutions? So if I go back to the premise of where we were, basically there was no other solution. It's either we did it this way or we didn't do it this way, and we kept going the old way. So the old way would have been write a C++ GUI and not do Python scripting, and that would have caused more pain than creating those interface. So I don't think there would have been too many different ways of doing things. It was either that or not that, yes or no. And we're quite lucky at Nanolife. We've got the management which lets us do things and trust us to do the right thing. So these were mostly technical decisions taken by the technical people, and even the CTO says, do what you think is right, go for it, and we were given free control over the technologies. I mean, we're a really small team. Back then we were 3 developers plus the CTO plus one person which is more firmware, hardware. Now there's 1 more developer. So we're talking about 6 people in total in the R&D team, including the CTO. We need to sort of get a lot of stuff done just with a few people. Yes?
Did the R project come in question at some point?
I did not hear that. I did not hear that.
R is like MATLAB, but in open source.
No. So the question is, did R come into mind? No. Well, part of the reason is that no one knew R. I mean, everyone knows R from what it stands for, what it has, what functionality it has, but actually everyone in the team knew Python. So for us, that was a really also strong indication that this was a correct way to go, because most people knew C++, everyone knew Python, everyone was going to be able to take advantage of this one way or another. And so R did not come into consideration just because no one knew about it. I mean, even if I take back this user interface, this was less certain than the Python, for the simple reason that I'm actually the only front-end developer, the only person with front-end development capabilities at Nanolife. So typically bus factor 1, for if I die, the user interface development goes to stops. And that's a bit of a problem. But since no one wanted to do a C++ user interface anyway, do what you must.
didn't try any web workers to offload from the main thread on Chrome side?
Yes, we did. But it's a lot of work, and there are some limitations. Typically, the sort of things there. If you typically here, if I go back, you'll see that it resizes. All of a sudden, you have many APIs that are sort of impossible to show. But it's possible. Actually, we did some experiments, but we did simply not have enough value in this, and we were under too much time pressure to invest the time to do it. Right. Thank you. Okay.
So right now will be the Kahoot right now. Yeah. So those everywhere here. So everyone here. So we'll play a game right now, and we'll be able to win a lot of gifts. Maybe just one thing. Yeah.
Just 2, 3, 4.
Okay. Great. So before we start the quiz, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Liip and Antistatic. They are supporting us so that we can hold all those events through the years. They're also helping us with the materials. So thanks to us. Thanks to them. To the Kahoot right now. Sorry for my voice. I left them in Toulouse 2 days ago. So we play the Kahoot right now. The Kahoot is a mini game, so you will be able to join the Kahoot.it website, or if you have the application, you can just open it. Don't think you have the application, so go to the website Kahoot.it. You have the link on the sort of iPad in the screen. So Kahoot.it, and we will give you a code. So you just have to type it. Maybe you can show the perfect. So join the Kahoot.it web browser in your browser. Tap this pin. And did you allow names, or did you enable generate names? So you have just try choice to choose a name. Don't try to spin because it don't work. Just reload the page. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. Come on. And we have 2 gifts tonight, so 2 people will be able to win. How works the Kahoot? So the Kahoot, you will have some questions. You will only have the answer on your phone. And we have the question on this screen. We'll be here to disturb you from the question. Okay, I don't have any other purpose. So you will have only those 4 shapes or less. It's possible more than one question. More than one answer is the correct answer, okay? But you don't have to find all the correct answer. Just one is enough. Once you press one button, it's your answer. You have the question on the left. You have the answer on your phone. Okay, everybody's here? Okay. Do you have any problem? Who is not here?
Network was a bit slow.
Okay, yeah. Sorry. We have the Wi-Fi if you need. I don't know the code. Can read maybe. I will not read it aloud. Liip rocks. Okay, come on. It's 0 for the O. And 1 for the E? Yeah, I think so. It's okay? Okay, let's start. You cannot join after, so then be here. And I will discover the question with you. So what's the name of the tool used to expose our C++ to Python? PyObject, PyBean 11, Python Extender, or Boost Python? You remember? Really? I don't. Okay. I will say PyObject. I don't know why. Did you say something about PyObject?
I did not say anything about PyObject.
Okay. Maybe I was somewhere else. Okay, next one. So one person. Who is Rational Wolf? No. Okay. Please don't win twice. Okay, who's Nanolive designer? Calvin Klein, Karl Lagerfeld, Donatella Versace, or Giorgio Armani? Easy. I don't know. Karl Lagerfeld, really? Wow. Crazy. Still Rational Wolf. Who's Proud Yeti? Proud Yeti? Okay. Maybe they cheat together. Kindlebex? Okay, maybe you may win. You have to win. You can't let him win because he already win once.
I didn't win last time.
Not you. You never. I know it's true. We are the speaker. Next one. How many questions we have? 10. How do you invoke a saga from another saga? Call, spawn, invoke, action. Saga isn't the guy from Street Fighter? Yeah. I remember that name from. This is the evil one. And, oh, 2 good answers. Call or spawn? It was call, of course. 30 people say invoke, yeah. I will say invoke too. Not that bad. Oh, Groovy Crane first. A Snowy Sloth with Snowy Sloth. Strange name, you know. Mountain Koala. Okay, let's start. Kindlebex, you can still win. I bet on you. How does the JavaScript communicate with C++? REST API natively, WebSockets, shared memory. I will say WebSocket. I think it's the correct answer. Yes, it's the correct. I'm so good to that game. Okay, next one. Groovy Crane still first. Happy Elephant. Who is a happy elephant? Okay, you may win. 2. Luckily, you have less than 100, and one question is 1,000 points. Sorry. And you have 2,000. So yeah, you can win. You can still win. Next one. How do you test your Python bindings? Ooh, writing test. QA integration test. You don't. I would say you don't. Unit test. QA integration test. Unit test, or you don't. Oh, you do some test. Shit. Okay, fine. Who answer you don't? Thank you. You're right, you don't.
Yeah.
You code with confidence, you don't test. Kindle, same guys. Okay, next one. How do you solve bugs in the embed Chromium? 6 and 10. Bug report, upgrade Chromium. You don't, still you don't. Download source, fix and recompile. Bug report. But if you can't upgrade, you don't bug report. You don't, of course. It was a trap. Okay,
The thing
next.
is, it's useless to do a bug report because the bug that's already been fixed. You're supposed
Yeah.
to upgrade your version, so you can do the bug report. You're like, yeah, well, upgrade.
You can try to upgrade.
You have
You can try to upgrade, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but what if you can't?
Easy. Oh, Awesome Buffalo. Who's Awesome Buffalo? Oh, it's me. I'm playing right. Okay, let's go. Shining Crane. It's new on the leaderboard too. Okay. Everybody is so close. Crazy. Go next one. Who owns the main thread? Is that a funny one? No, it's not a funny one. The user, Python, C++, or JavaScript? Python, yeah. And C++, okay. Okay, yeah. Next one. They are not too much funny. I can be fun on that kind of question. Next one. How do you get the result of an API call in JavaScript? Callback, ES6, async function, the return value, a promise. I will say ES6 or a new project. Maybe a promise, a new project. I don't know. Come on, 2 people have to answer. Yeah, it was a promise, of course. You don't use EX6 on the project?
We do use ES6, but that's that's not how it's.
That's how it's handled. Okay, but you can. Okay, next one. Okay, so it's still possible for the 3 people on the screen, on the top of the screen. I think Groovy Crane it will be complicated to win. Sorry. Was this talk too technical? It was for me. I fell asleep. Yes, no. I prefer ponies. Please answer, I prefer ponies. I prefer ponies. Yes! Thank you. I mean, I win, so if they choose my question, does I win? Shiny Crane, okay. Highest answer strike for 9. Great. You may win. You can still win. Even a happy elephant can win. Okay, next one is the last one, I think.
Yeah. The most difficult question.
You can. How does Python communicate with C++? Don't. WebSockets REST API natively or shared memory. Isn't it the same answer for the JavaScript?
Yeah, exactly.
And only 10 seconds for this answer? Yeah. Okay. Fine. Great. So who won? Who won? Congratulations for everyone playing this because it was very complicated. So Shiny Crane. I'm dying. So you can choose between 2 gifts.
It was really hard to pick. I prefer ponies.
Yeah, I get it. So we have a boombox here, or you may have 3 months on Shortcut Foo. What is Shortcut Foo? I choose the gift, so that's why it's awesome. You have to take it. It's a website where you can learn shortcuts for like everything, VIs or Photoshops or whatever you want, VS Code if you want. And you have 3 months on this platform, or you have the boombox.
I have to say I prefer to code with music rather than a shortcut. So take that.
Yeah, good choice.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And who was the second one? May you put the score back. Awesome Buffalo. So you know your gift.
Oh.
So you have to come next to me in like, yeah, for the photos, you know, for sponsors. They like photography. And I'm pretty beautiful in photography. So yeah, you have the shortcut food.
Okay,
3
you.
months on this. You just come with me, and I will give you your account.
Thank
Great,
you.
thank you.
Thank
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you all. So what's next? The next talk will be in 1 month only, with Mark Friedrich talking about easy as web. It will be, I think, less technical than today. It will be at Antistatic, 2nd of July. I hope to see you there. And again, thank you for tonight. So the open mic session right now, if you have something to say, if you're looking for someone in a company, if you're looking for a job maybe, if you just want to talk because I talk too much, I don't know. Nobody? Sure? One chance, one shot, you know Eminem.
Okay, I don't want to speak really long, but with my 2 other colleagues, we did a school, the Le Wagon School in Lausanne. It just started for 9 weeks. We learned to code. And next Friday, we will do our demo day. We build a web app. And you are all pleased to come to the next beer station. So it's next Friday in Mass Challenge in Renan. Go to the meetup and tap and write only Le Wagon, and that's it. Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you. Someone else want to say something? Okay, so I have just 1 word last. So we are a partner of the Smashing conferences in Freiburg this year. They still have a lot of tickets, and yes, it was for us. I just put this because we are a partner, and I'm so proud of it. So yeah, and just follow us on YouTube because we need followers to
Freiburg, not Fribourg.
Freiburg in Germany.
Right.
Yeah, sorry, not Fribourg. Right, in Germany. And yeah, just follow us in YouTube if you don't, because we need followers to unlock all the features on YouTube. Great. Thank you. I think Time for the apéro right now.
Yes, time for the apéro. Thank you very much for coming tonight.
Donc ce qu'on fait en fait, c'est qu'on a créé un compte, on va juste mettre ton email à la place, et puis on va changer, tu vas mettre le mot de passe que tu veux, puis ce sera à toi le compte. Et en fait on a prépayé 3 mois, donc il n'y a pas notre carte de crédit, c'est un prepaid PayPal. Je peux te montrer ce que c'est.